Yo, what's going on everybody? Welcome back, Justin here. As always, guys, thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me today. In today's video, we are going to be counting down my top 10 personal favorite movies of the year. We are ringing in the new year by counting down, like all of us movie-loving folks, counting down our favorite movies. I have a list of 10 is my hard list, and I have about 6 or 7 honorable mentions. I didn't quite have enough for a top 20, and top 15 just didn't have the ring that I really wanted. So I'll run through my honorable mentions, and then we'll get to my top 10. I give all of these films my top recommendation, so keep that in mind. I will say number 1 is obviously my absolute favorite of the year, and the ones just before that could have probably been interchangeable in that number 1 spot. I don't know if that makes sense, but I guess long story short here, I love all these movies, and especially when we get to the top, they're almost impossible to put a number on. So these are all my children. I love all of them the same. You know, it's funny, I saw some people on Twitter, like in the movie community, saying, you know, there wasn't enough for me to even make a top 5 this year, or this or that, especially within the horror genre. And to me, that just blew my mind. It's like, either you're far too picky or you just didn't watch enough movies, you didn't seek out movies, because I didn't have a tough time at all finding movies that I just absolutely loved this year. And in 2022, I expect a bunch more great movies. There's ones that I'm really looking forward to as well. So definitely, as always, guys, let me know in the comments below what you loved this year. Let me know what your favorite movie of the year was. Hell, if you want to write down your top 10 or top 15 or top 20, whatever you want to write in the comments, start that conversation down below. I always love chatting with you. I'm going to say this in this video, as I will probably in the next few videos. I started a second channel. So all of my collecting, my toys, collectibles, prop replicas, all of my physical media, Blu-ray, 4K, all of the physical media and collecting aspects of my content, that's going to be in the new channel. I did post my top 20 physical media releases of the year and my top 10 Vinegar Syndrome releases of the year, and then I'll be just banging out Blu-ray reviews and collection videos from here on out on that second channel. This channel is going to be for theatrical and streaming movie reviews, movie news, trailer reactions, and I'm probably going to keep it pretty strictly there. Maybe every once in a while a vlog where I'll mix it up with a countdown or a ranking video. But so yeah, it's really exciting. If you guys could please subscribe to that channel if you like my shit. Go subscribe to my new channel. I will link that channel down below. With all that said, let's get into my top 10 movies of the year, starting with my honorable mentions. My first honorable mention goes to Midnight Mass. Now, I technically wanted to follow the rules on this list. It is a miniseries, it's not a movie. Had I included miniseries in my movie list, this probably would have been number 1. I use this technicality to kind of sort of squeak more movies in my list. So Midnight Mass is absolutely amazing. I did a recap video, a recap series rather, where I did a separate video, in-depth review for every episode of the show. Go watch the show, come back and watch my recaps. It's an incredible show by Mike Flanagan, director of Dr. Sleep, Haunting of Hill House, great director. Go watch Midnight Mass. My next honorable mention, another limited series, also on Netflix, is brand new Cherry Flavor. I did a review for this one as well. Any movie that I talk about that I have reviewed, I will link my full reviews down below. The show is so bizarre and different and well written and well acted and well cast. It's a beautiful looking show. It's extremely bizarre. It may not be for everybody. There's some body horror. There's some witchy type stuff. To give a very basic premise, this woman moves to Hollywood to be a filmmaker. She meets this sleazy guy who ends up doing some messed up stuff to her. She wants to get revenge on him, and she meets Catherine Keener's character, who promises that she can put some sort of spell on him to fuck up his life, and things go out of control in ways I couldn't even describe here. Just go watch the show. Brand new Cherry Flavor. Next up is Titane. I actually just watched this last night. This is another movie. It's a French movie by the same director who did Raw. I absolutely loved this movie. It's extremely surreal. Another movie with a lot of body horror and just really surrealistic, dreamlike elements to it that don't make a lot of sense pertaining to, like, you know, reality. Look this one up. It's very Cronenbergian. It's very violent and a lot of really disturbing elements. Basically, it tells the story of this girl who at a really young age was in this horrific car accident, and she bashes her skull in, and they replace a portion of her skull with this titanium plate. She grows up and I don't want to go into spoiler territory here, so I'm just going to shut up here. Go watch Titan. It's fucking bizarre. If you're into really weird, bizarre, body horror, surrealistic, dreamlike movies with some disturbing elements, I think you'll really dig it. Next movie in my honorable mention is Kid 90. Now, this is a completely different category of pretty much everything on the list, but I watched it and I loved it, and I'm not going to make a whole nother list for non-horror. So, Kid 90 is a movie, it's a documentary by Soleil Moonfry. I think that's how you say her name. She was Punky Brewster back in the 80s. And basically throughout her entire life, she filmed basically everything on her little camcorder. Way back then when it was not normal to be filming everything like that. And she basically documented her whole childhood growing up with all of these different child stars. Leonardo DiCaprio and, you know, Devon Sawa and Jonathan Brandis and Corey Feldman and all of these people. And she has this amazing footage and she tells her whole story through the eyes of her and all these friends and some people who have, you know, died since then. It's just extremely interesting, and it's sort of bittersweet and sad when they talk about Jonathan Brandis or Corey Haim or, you know, people like that. But all these kids that used to hang out that were in all of our favorite 80s movies. Highly recommend Kid 90. It's a really incredible documentary. Next up is Saint Maud, which was supposed to be released way back in 2019, and all that COVID shit happened, and it was finally released early this year. This is an A24 film, and this is extremely A24. It may be a little slow for people, sort of a character study, but it's an extremely dark, religious-based horror, psychological drama thriller. Has a really crazy ending. I loved it. My next honorable mention before we jump into the 10, and this almost cracked the top 10. It was almost in there. Fear Street 1978. I didn't want to lump all these together as one. I guess you could just interchange it, but out of all three Fear Street movies, I did like 1978 the most out of all of them, even though when I ranked these initially months and months ago, I ranked movie as my favorite, but since then I've grown to like 1978 a little bit more. So I did review all three Fear Street movies, and I have a ranking video for that if you want to check it out. But now we're getting into our top 10. So number 10, going into the official top 10 of the year. Number 10 is Old. Guys, I loved Old. I had such a great time with M. Night Shyamalan's newest movie. I did a review for it. I loved it. I got a kick out of it. I think this is one of these movies where if the cheesier elements such as iffy dialogue and just some of the more, I guess, absurd elements of the movie, if you can't get past that, especially in the first like 20, 30 minutes, none of the movie's gonna work for you. But I was on board. I was just on board. Something about it, it just had a quality that I really liked. I thought it made some really great points and pontificated on getting older and valuing your life, and I just really got a lot out of it. I got what he was trying to say. Even as absurd as it was, I got his point. I understood what Mr. Shyamalan was trying to say, and I loved it. Number 9 is The Night House. Guys, I loved this movie. The only reason it isn't a little bit higher on the list is because I don't know if it has quite as much rewatched value as the other movies do, but this was a great movie and actually genuinely had some scary, sort of thrilling moments. In my opinion, it had a great original story. I hadn't seen a story quite like this told before, and I got a lot of enjoyment out of this one. It was really, really good. The lead performance from what is her name? She is fantastic. She does a great job in this movie, and I highly recommend checking out The Night House if you haven't already seen it. Next up, number 8 is Lamb. I also did a review for this movie. I loved this movie. What a charming little film. It's a fantasy movie. I would describe it as a fantasy movie with horror elements. There's even some comedy in it too. It's a weird mix of genres and tones. It's about two farmers who are having troubles in their marriage, and they have a sheep farm, and one of their sheep gives birth to we'll just say a really abnormal sheep. An abnormal sheep is born. And it sets off a crazy set of events. It's got some really sort of sudden moments of violence and sudden moments of horror, but overall I wouldn't call it a horror movie. It is astonishingly beautiful. It was shot in Ireland on location. Gosh, the landscapes just seem to go on and on forever with the grass and just this beautiful sky and waterfalls. I found it to be really meditative because it's a really quiet movie with minimal dialogue, but it's great. I loved it. I really had a good time with Lamb. Next up is Pig, which I also reviewed on the channel, so I won't go too deep into that. Easily my favorite Nicolas Cage performance of the past several years. I loved him in Mandy. So for me personally, Mandy and Pig are his two best performances that he's done probably in the last 10 years or so. This is not John Wick with a pig like everybody thought it was going to be, or some people are disappointed because it's not that. This is very much a character study of an older guy coming to terms with his past, with his mistakes, with his loss, his grief, and it's a absolutely, and I don't say this lightly, it's a beautiful film. Foodies will like it. There's a lot of like culinary stuff in the movie. It's great. It may not be for everybody. Some people may be expecting different. I think expectations hurt a lot of people's opinions of this movie because they sort of bill it as him maybe taking revenge on somebody who stole his pig, but it's not that. It is and it isn't that. It's just not John Wick with the pig, so don't go in thinking that. Just go in for good performances and a great story. Number 6, which I also did a full in-depth review, that is down below, and that is Censor. It tells the story of Enid. She's a film censor in the 1980s UK. It's her job to censor and or ban films that come across her desk. This is in a really conservative time in America and Europe and all these places pertaining to movies. It's her job to watch all these movies and cut the certain parts that shouldn't be in there, the eye gouge, the throat slit, all of the violent stuff or extra sex scenes. It's her job to cut shit out or just flat out ban the movie. Throughout this journey of watching movies, she discovers a possible clue, a potential clue to maybe what happened to a sister of hers that disappeared when she was a kid. I highly recommend watching it. It is streaming right now, so check it out, and that is Censor. Number 5 is Black Friday, which I also did a full in-depth review for. I love this movie. Devon Sawa, Bruce Campbell of Evil Dead. It's about this meteorite that's crash lands into this toy store on Black Friday of all times. All of the people in the store are forced to fight these weird alien zombie parasite hybrids. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of comedy. I would say it's just as much comedy as it is horror, but there's tons of great stuff for gore hounds, and it's got a lot of genre stuff. Cult classic actors like Devon Sawa and Bruce Campbell. It's great. I highly recommend it. Now in the top half of the top 10, in number 4 is Nightmare Alley, Guillermo del Toro's criminally underrated, criminally underseen Nightmare Alley. Guys, go support this movie. It's most likely still playing in a theater near you. Bradley Cooper, Cate Blanchett, Willem Dafoe, Rooney Mara. It's so good, and it's not doing too well at the box office, at least not as well as I would hope that a movie like this could do. Really throwback to film noir. It's a beautiful film. It's Guillermo del Toro. I mean, come on. So Nightmare Alley is my number 4. Now we're in the top 3 here, guys, which are so close as to how much I loved all of these films. And these last 4 movies all got 4 stars on my Letterboxd, which I'm going off of here to look this up. If you guys follow me on Letterboxd, I'll follow you back. Number 3 is Malignant. Now this is a movie that when I saw the trailer, I saw it was James Wan and I watched the trailer. I had no interest in watching this movie. I wasn't going to see it. I didn't need another stringy hair in the face, monster, Conjuring Universe style movie. I just was not interested. But one night, it was 2 or 3 in the morning, I couldn't sleep and I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna watch this goddamn Malignant. I popped it in and within the first 5 minutes, I was like, huh, okay, this is different here. To anybody who's seen it, you know there's a pretty crazy opening scene. Out of left field, this movie. You never seen anything quite like it, at least I didn't have. There's comparisons to certain 80s movies like maybe Basket Case or Frank Henenlotter stuff, but what a bizarre movie. I'm not even gonna spoil it. It's James Wan, so if you're a James Wan fan, check it out. It's not gonna be for everybody, but I love weird shit and this movie was incredible. Check out Malignant. Next up, my number 2 movie of the year. This was another movie that was supposed to be 2019, 2020, but ended up getting bumped, and that is Jill Sixx's The Stylist. This was shot in my hometown of Kansas City. It's about a murderer hairstylist, and it's amazing. Again, it's a lot of horror. There is some gore, but more over everything, it's really a character study into this woman's life, and it's I keep wanting to say beautiful, but in a way it is a beautiful movie. The color palette's great, the lighting, the performances. It's a fantastic movie. Like I said, it was shot in Kansas City, which is my hometown, so it was really cool seeing all the different locations that I go by all the time in the movie. Even if you're not a big horror, like gorehound gore fan, I think this could catch some people in the middle that just are moderate horror fans. It's a really well-made film. And my number 1 movie of the year is none other than Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho. I absolutely loved this movie. I can't wait to pick this up on Blu-ray, watch it again, watch it every year. It's just, man, I loved everything about this movie. Anya Taylor-Joy, lead actress who is also in Old, by the way. Love letter to 1960s London. There's a lot of horror elements, giallo elements. The soundtrack is amazing. It's Edgar Wright. I mean, come on, he did Shaun of the Dead. He did Baby Driver. It's just such a well-made movie. I know you've probably heard of it. If you've been on the fence, just go check it out. Even if you don't end up liking it, it's just a movie that is absolutely worth a watch. You know, even if you don't end up getting out what I got out of it, it's a movie that I feel like needs to be seen because the technical aspects of the choreography and how technically competent this movie is just astonishing. It's easily his best work, Edgar Wright's best work as a director, easily. It's not quite in the same class as like Shaun of the Dead or Baby Driver. This is a whole different animal. This girl goes to London to go to fashion school, and she stays at this woman's house. She rents a room, and every night she goes to sleep, she's transported to a different time, to 1960s, and she ends up witnessing this girl, Anya Taylor-Joy's character, sort of watching her from bird's eye view, watching her life as she goes to all this nightclub and lives her life, and bad things happen to her. Thomasin McKenzie is her name. Thomasin McKenzie keeps seeing all these horrific things happening to Anya Taylor-Joy's character. In the past, though, she like transports herself back to the past, and all these things happen, and then the past sort of catches up to the present. I can't recommend Last Night in Soho enough. I haven't stopped thinking about it since I saw it, and it's a must-see. You gotta see it. My #1 movie of the year, Last Night in Soho. So guys, that is it. Pete, unless you have anything else to add, I got my little puppy Pete here. He's curled up in a little donut, taking a little nap. So guys, that is it. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for all the support this year. It's really incredible. It's been a year and a half now that I've been making videos on YouTube, since June or July of 2020, and on to 2022 with a new channel. Continue to post on this channel just as much. Don't worry about that. Stay weird. Remember to always be yourself, and I will see you in the next one.